Welcome to the Inside Silverstone podcast, a business-focused podcast covering all things tech, engineering and innovation. Hosted by me, Chris Broome, a huge tech, motorsport and gaming fan, and also the owner of Longhurst, a firm of lifestyle financial planners and independent financial advisors located in Silverstone, Northamptonshire. This is a series of unscripted and unpolished conversations with leading business owners, thought leaders and high-tech talent where we discuss their experiences within the Silverstone business and motorsport region. We will also be asking them to share their knowledge, insight and their thoughts on the future just for you. If you're looking to learn more about the Silverstone high growth region and commercially connect with like-minded peers, you've definitely come to the right place. Welcome to Inside Silverstone. Welcome to the next episode of Inside Silverstone. My name's Chris Broome, your host. Today I am delighted to finally welcome onto the show Ros Bird, who is the Commercial Director for Silverstone Park. Ros, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Ros, it's customary for me to begin the show by running through a bit of a CV of you, if that's okay, to cover off sort of academic journey through to sort of career journey up to this point, just so that we can explain to the listeners and provide them as much information as we can about you. So if that's okay, can I do that?
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. And again, I got all of this information off LinkedIn and Google, so if anything is wrong, correct me, and if I pronounce anything incorrectly, do let me know. So academically, you got your first degree in European Cultural Studies, European Politics and Literature from Edge Hill University during the early 90s, which was then followed with a master's degree in European Integration and Cooperation, International Relations from the University of Hull.
That's right.
Then you got a professional diploma in marketing from the Chartered Institute of Marketing. And then from Reading University, got a degree in estate management and commercial property. And then this year, following sort of further studying, you became a chartered surveyor.
That's it.
Okay. Career-wise, during the sort of noughties, as it were, you were a business development manager for the UK Science Park Association. And then from 07 to 14 was the estate director and head of business development for MEPC over at Granta Park in Cambridge.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is in the sort of region that you live and have lived for a number of years, which we'll come on to. And then in 2014, which is why it's important for Silverstone, you then became the commercial director for MEPC Silverstone Park.
Yes, that's right.
Which then proceeded in 2017 with you becoming the chair of the Silverstone Technology Cluster, which my firm Longhurst is also a member of. You're also a member of board for the Niche Vehicle Network. And just for fun, in 2017, you were voted by Grant Thornton as one of 100 Faces of Vibrant Economy.
Yeah, that's right. The other thing I should say is that I think it was around about 2014 when I became commercial director at Silverstone. I also became a member of the MEPC exec committee.
Okay.
So that's a sort of advisory board within MEPC, looking at all the decisions across the business.
Okay. And so before we get on to Silverstone Park, can you just explain who MEPC are for those listeners that aren't aware of who MEPC are?
Yeah, so MEPC is a property company doing asset management and development, and our focus is on business and science parks in the UK. So Milton Park at Didcot is one of ours, and also Wellington Place, Leeds Wellington Place, which is just sort of in the railway sidings as it was, up in the centre of Leeds. It's a 2 million square foot development of offices. And then Silverstone Park, and before that Granta Park in Cambridge, where I started with MEPC. So we're about living and breathing our business estates, being on site, managing the companies that are there, and then looking at the development land and attracting new companies to join the community.
Which then neatly brings us on to Silverstone Park. So we're currently sat in Silverstone Park at the moment, the Innovation Centre, which is one of the office blocks here. Again, for those that aren't aware of Silverstone Park and also the Silverstone Technology Cluster, what are they?
So the park itself and the Innovation Centre and everything. So we've got 400,000 square feet of buildings, built and let, pretty much. It is on the land that's in front of the circuit, along the Dadford Road, if you know it. We've also got over 100 acres of land with planning consent for 2 million square feet.
Okay.
So the idea is that we look after the companies that are on site already. They might want their own building built for them. 3C Tester is in its own building, for example, on site already. And then we want to get other companies, like-minded companies, to come along and move their company here, grow their company at Silverstone. And we can build buildings for them. So we do everything from talking to people about what they need, all the way through to building them a building and handing them the keys.
Wow, okay.
And when we first bought the land around the track, we knew obviously that it had the great Silverstone brand, and it's in a central location with a dual carriageway up to the front door.
Yeah.
We went around to speak to all the companies to say, you know, why are you here? What do you do? You know, what would you change if you could? And a lot of people said that they wanted to be here because they liked the name of Silverstone and the central location. They wanted the community back that had been there in the good old days. And that was kind of music to our ears, because we feel that we can add value to a place by helping companies to meet each other and to create a really good sense of community and mutual regard between companies and help them to get to know each other. And we think that long term that helps them to secure themselves in a place. They get comfortable with it, and they can also look for business opportunities. So overall, what we're trying to do is create a business environment that will impress clients and motivate staff. That's the sort of strap line, really.
Yeah.
What we mean by that is you want to be in a location as a company where when you drive in, it's easy to find the building and park, and it's a smart location. Your clients, your customers are impressed. And then everyone's trying to attract and retain the best people. So the way to do that is not just a nice environment to work in, but all the added extras of amenities like cafes and nurseries and gyms and that kind of thing, but also social committee and quiz nights and Pilates and boot camps, whatever people want. And staff then really like that, so that companies, when they move here, can say, do you know what, I've met some businesses that are interesting. Either they inspire me or I think I might do business with them. My customers and my sponsors are happy because, you know, it's a really well looked after place and it's not expensive. I always like to say that although the place looks really smart, we haven't put the service charge up, significantly. It's all about managing on site day to day.
Yeah, the pricing is very fair, to be fair. It's very good.
And then my staff are happy, and I can, when I'm interviewing people, I can say to them, not only will you come and work for me in a good company with a nice view out the window, but there's a social committee and there's a place to go at lunchtime, and it just helps to, you know, when you're competing for staff, to attract and retain the best people. And the other bit of the story that gives you the overview of kind of what we're doing here is that when we started talking to companies at trade shows and things at the very beginning, you know, we're doing our market research, going up to people literally with my card on a stand, anyone that would talk to me at Advanced Engineering Show, Auto Sports Show, Bike Week, all that stuff. And I said, do you know what we're doing at Silverstone? Would you come if you could? And the response I got back was, well, I can't come to Silverstone necessarily because I'm based in wherever they were, Stockbridge, you know, Slough, Peterborough, where their staff were, but they come to Silverstone every week to do business, pick up parts, work with suppliers, collaboration projects. So, and then also that most of the companies now aren't just working in motorsport. They're applying those skills and capabilities to other sectors. So Silverstone has a great name in motorsport, but it's also a great British brand. And it's synonymous with success and engineering excellence long term. And what we've found is that companies in completely different sectors, software for the NHS, like Fibonacci, for example, said to us they went to a Microsoft conference. And they happened to mention at the end of their presentation that they were based at Silverstone. Apparently, the room stopped and everyone said, where did you say you were based? What's going on there? That sounds great. Why aren't we there? And the UTC, the University Technical College, which is the 14 to 18-year-olds that are in a school inside the track, which isn't on our land and started pretty much the same time as we bought in. So it's a separate company and everything. The students that go there, when I meet with them at our metrology facility and stuff and do a bit of a talk about, careers and work hard and do well and that kind of message, I say to them, you may think that, being at the UTC is just a place to go and do your GCSEs and A-levels and you don't know what the value of it is, but it will stand out on your CV forever. So regardless of what you do next, people will say, how come you got your GCSEs and A-levels at Silverstone? What was that all about? I said, that's the value of the Silverstone brand, and it's the same for the business community. It's how you can then take that value and help other companies that aren't in motorsport to raise their game and add value to their business. And we're doing that. And what we've found is it's quite unhelpful to just think about sectors, motorsport, automotive, all that stuff. Actually, the companies, 80% of their work now could be defence, aerospace, medical devices. All that kind of stuff.
Well, so, in Pim's interview, he was talking about the relationship with Heathrow.
Yeah. And that is really interesting, and that was really glad to get that because that call and that kind of introduction, because I had a hunch when we looked at what was going on in the area that we had a high-tech cluster here. And obviously we got the SQW report done with Barclays and Grant Thornton and PwC at the time, BMW.
What's that report?
Yeah, so this is the report on the high-tech cluster in the area.
Okay.
SQW did it for us. And the reason that we got it done was because I had a feeling that we had companies that had to be in the area to do what they do, and there was a specialist nature to their capabilities. Kind of like you have to be in the area to do these things, and actually what you're doing is second to none elsewhere in the country, that kind of feeling. And I knew that I was right, really, to be fair, because of all the work I'd done in Cambridge before. So I had that insight from 5 years over in Cambridge, UK.
Proof of concept over there.
With all the networking with the high-tech companies who were over there is biochemistry and algorithms and maths, basically, the Genome Campus and Cambridge Science Park. But they were all networking with each other, and they all had to be there, and they had the relationships with professional service organisations and other similar companies and complementary companies. When I came to Silverstone, there wasn't anything like that happening particularly, but I could tell from the conversation with the companies they seemed to be similar, and I felt like they needed that extra support to do the networking. There wasn't that bit of the ecosystem. So they knew each other and they knew who to pick up the phone to, but they didn't know beyond their own little sort of network, as it were. And I could see how we could make some more connections and formalise it a bit and get organised. But me saying this is the case is not enough. You need someone independent to go in and investigate. And frankly, I, being from the private sector, have to just work on stuff that really exists. So if SQW had come back to us and said it's just co-location of companies because it's a central location in the country, there isn't really anything going on, a few people know each other, we'd have said, fine, that is the context in which we're working. I now need to proceed in my marketing in that way. But they actually they were quite... they were determined to be really objective and said to me, we're not even going to sign an agreement that says reveal the cluster, which is what I'd asked them to do. And they said, we'll go and run our tests and we'll come back. So they came back within a month of starting the research, really excited. And they said, yeah, you have got something special here. No idea why. It's never really been looked at in this way. Maybe it's because the Formula One teams, everyone just looks at them and thinks that's what it's all about. It isn't just about that. It's about Cosworth and the graduate training programme that they set up in the 1970s, not the 19th century. That would be a remarkable feat, but 1970s, that was groundbreaking at the time. March Engineering, Reynard, all the guys that had gone through those companies, gone into Formula One, then come back, set their companies up, come back to the area because of the capabilities in the area. And that was all confirmed in this report, which we launched in May 2016. And that we knew that companies would say to us, thanks for confirming it, finally, and obviously now government is taking it seriously, but what's in it for us? And to be honest with you, my vision was that we needed to set up a cluster organisation.
Yeah.
That's the bit that was missing in my observation. But to get there, you needed the report to show that there was a high-tech cluster and a need for it. Once we had that, yes, there is one, it was then a case of, OK, so let's set up this cluster organisation. And that's where Pim comes in as the chief exec. And that taking it back to Heathrow, why I was very pleased that Heathrow contacted is because they said to me, we get what you're doing, read your website, spoken to Pim, we can see that there's some companies there in your cluster and we're really excited about working with you. And I could say to them, and that was in like last year sometimes, come to our annual conference and give a presentation.
Yes.
And then you can get in front of all those people. And the point is that Heathrow could never have accessed the companies in our area so easily if it hadn't been for us organising ourselves and presenting it and having a phone number to ring to say, I'm interested in working with the company. So we're adding value by bringing those new opportunities to the businesses, that we're bringing visibility to those businesses and their capabilities.
Yeah, it's a great story, and you know, and as mentioned, sort of off air, and also discussed with Pim, you know, it's the Silverstone Park STC is still in its infancy.
Yes.
Yeah, it's still relatively young.
Yeah,
which is so exciting.
Yeah, we bought the land around the track in 2013, so we're 5 years on with Silverstone Park.
Yeah.
We bought Eddie Jordan Technology Park straight away, so that was 85,000 square feet in March 2014, and we let that to some great companies like EDM and Amicon, High Tech GP, KTM are in there. And then that proved that we'd done the right thing and that there was an appetite for companies to be based at Silverstone Park with our sort of management and proposition. And then that gave us the confidence to then build things like the extension to the Ducati building that enabled Delta Motorsport to grow. National College of Motorsport doubled in size. That was 2 or 3 years ago now. And then we thought, right, OK, that's all good. Let's start building. So then we built the 125,000 square feet that we'd completed in just beginning of 2017. That's where David Brown Automotive is, making their minis. That's where Total Sims just bought a building and they're setting up their wind tunnel for bicycles. Some real novel technology going on in there, which I think will attract other companies and new markets in, you know, it's bikes, British Olympic Cycling Team, Team Sky, and then going on to things like Paralympics, Winter Olympic sports, all the stuff that Rob's already into there. Lotus obviously have gone into a unit. Mercedes-Benz Grand Prix are in there.
Virgin
are in there with their Formula E team. Just did a launch last week. So that was like the next phase. And now what I'm working on is the next step, which is we got our new outline planning consent for 2 million square feet. We've got our utilities. We've got 21 MVA of power. That makes a lot of difference to companies that need power for manufacturing and that kind of stuff.
And fibre, high-speed fibre?
Yeah, fibre's in. We've got gas coming to site, new foul drainage. So we've got service sites with planning consent and enterprise zone status on a lot of the land.
Yeah.
So my next step is I'm working now on the final stages of an application for another 266,000 square feet of planning. So there's a new building, standalone, detached units and some terraced units. I'm talking to some good companies about it. That will be submitted before Christmas and we hope to get planning consent on that in Q1. So the next stage of the Silverstone Park story is some more buildings, some detached buildings and maybe some other specialist companies coming in that are excited about benefiting from being in the heart of the cluster.
Yeah.
Silverstone Technology Cluster is about growing membership. Really important that we get renewals, that people are happy with the service. That's really in its infancy because we're only in year 2 right now.
Yeah.
But Pim's done a great job at talking to companies and explaining what the opportunity is. We've got a great board, you know, we've got good backing from the district councils and Barclays are still in there and Grant Thornton and EMW Law. And then having people like Rob Lewis and Kieran Salter from KW as like our business representatives on that board makes a difference.
Yes. And
we're about to go through so as chair now of the board, I've organised for a workshop to take place in December. And I don't know if you know this, but we stick closely to the Cambridge Wireless network setup. So Pim's got a mentor from Cambridge Wireless to make sure that those special interest groups have got that special ingredients to make sure they're great forums for discussion rather than just a conference or another networking event.
Sure.
There's an ingredient there to do with it, getting some controversial topics, getting the right people in the room. So Cambridge Wireless are helping us with that. And we've got them running a workshop for the board in December to kind of look at what are the operational issues that we worry about that we probably could just put to bed by talking to these guys about, how do we manage the income and what should we be doing for our members, and just some nuts and bolts stuff. And then what's kind of the vision for Silverstone Technology Cluster and where should we be taking it? So that's really in its infancy, but I think, 2 years ago, we didn't even know if anyone wanted to join anything called Silverstone Technology Cluster. There was a good moment for me at the annual conference in January where people were actually, saying STC and mentioning it in their questions and the conversations and the discussion from the audience. And I thought, this is really taking off. This is great. That was quite a nice, personally, a nice moment to see other people seeing the possibilities of it and running with it.
Like a waterfall, it starts with a drop of rain, and so it's begun here. And as you said, it's year 2, nearly entering year 3. STC's got 80, 90 members. I think PIM's target for the end of year 2 was 100.
That's right.
And beyond, and with the development and the land that you guys are acquiring, and potentially, the numbers of new businesses and employees that can come on site, it's as you've said, incredibly exciting. So first of all, congratulations and well done, and thank you.
We should think about that. So I must admit, there's so much going on in the day job. People do say to me sometimes, so much has been achieved, do you ever stop and celebrate? And I was saying to you earlier, before we started the interview, when I got chartered, my partner put a congratulations banner up in the kitchen, and I've refused to take it down.
Why not?
I think I'm going to keep it up 12 months.
Absolutely. Well, you've worked very hard. It's the same when I got chartered financial planner and fellowship status. It's you work your butt off. Hours and hours of study.
That's right.
Real life work, data. It's a commitment. So and what you guys have done on site here is why my business is here. It's why Longhurst here. It's why I'm here. As I was explaining to you, we've already had proof of concept. We've been on site 2 months, three months, and we've had some very, very impressive clients come and work with us. Which we're delighted with.
It's the spirit of openness and that sense of mutual regard in the community that makes it possible, I think. Because you can have an industrial estate anywhere, in Northampton, Buckinghamshire, wherever you want to be. But if the people aren't engaged and there isn't a spirit of I can pick up the phone, I can ask questions, I know I can go to somebody and say, how do I get a contact in that other company. And actually, when you do that, the other company is open to that suggestion because they've got the right spirit. That's the key to it for me. And it's about how we, as the landlords, as the people here taking this forward, engender that spirit and through senior team lunches and the Occupy networking events. And I think, it's really fun to see people go from being really suspicious to kind of listening to what you're saying, thinking, okay, well, if she does that, I might be happy, and then delivering genuinely the things that we've said we'll deliver, and then people go, okay, and they are in it for the long term. The funny thing, for example, is the barbecue. So the first year when we ran the summer barbecue, really struggled to get people to turn up. So I think we've got 100 people.
This is at the technology cluster on technology college on site, isn't it?
Yeah, we just picked that location because it's got a good indoor area, and British summers being what they are, we know we can all jump inside if it starts to pour with rain. Actually, we've always managed to pick a day when it's been hot and sunny, but you never know.
This year was beautiful.
We've been lucky, but you have to sort of manage that risk. So and then people came along and they realised it was genuinely free burgers and sausages, and that no one tackled them or attacked them, and it was just really nice. And so the following year, twice as many people come. And it's the same with, like you said, the drop of rain making the waterfall. It's the same with this. People grow in confidence and trust, and it's just quite natural. It's just about that relationship, and maybe they feel with other previous landlords and other parts of where they've worked before, they don't get the same treatment. But here it is about the customer being number one and us trying to do things that are going to genuinely add value. And frankly, it doesn't really cost very much to put on a barbecue.
It's a community.
I don't know why the people don't do it.
We and I attended our first quiz night here last night.
Yeah.
And which I think has been running for a couple of years, twice a year, and it's fantastic. There's 30 odd people there. Curry, a couple of beers, good fun. I sat on a table with a team with Pim, and met some business owners that I hadn't met previously. Met the chap that looks after your social media,
Carl,
which is great. And so he and I have organised or are organising coffee meets to talk about this podcast and other ideas to collaborate and share. And I completely agree with everything you just said.
Yeah, he's there to and has been there with me since early 2014. To help companies promote what they do. Yeah. Because the best way for me to kind of promote this place as the place to be is by saying all the cool stuff that all the companies are doing. There's only so many, times people are going to read Rosbird is building a building. It's like, great, I'm glad she's doing that. It's a day job. But what they're really interested in is Lotus has moved in and what Rob's doing in his building, and the latest from Delta have doubled in size and getting into, battery technology. That's the bit that people are interested in reading. Actually, do you know what the most read section of our newsletter is?
Tell me.
The spotlight on the person in the team.
Yeah, there we are.
Everyone reads that.
Yeah.
Because it's all about people.
Absolutely. What's the relationship with between sort of Silverstone Park and Parliament, government?
Really good.
Okay.
And a growing interest from them in what we're doing. I mean, obviously we're investing a lot of money in developing this park. We're bringing in, £13 million investment in utility upgrade. When we build buildings, obviously we're investing in that. We're creating an environment, the Silverstone Technology Cluster. So it hasn't gone unnoticed. In fact, a few people over the years have come up to me and said, government are really pleased with what you're doing, Ros. And I'm thinking, good, I'm glad. I mean, we're not necessarily looking for public money to make things happen here. This is about, the private sector and what's needed in the area. But having a partnership with government that recognises the value of the activity here and the business activity and the potential for it to grow is really important.
Yes.
We don't want that to be lost, and we don't want there to be a missed opportunity. So yesterday I went down to London to see Robert Jenrick MP, who's the Exchequer Secretary, so he's a minister within the Treasury. And that was a really good moment, and sort of the culmination of lots of different meetings and visits and things that have been discussed this summer and into the sort of second half of this year around the role that Silverstone Technology Cluster and Silverstone Park plays within this geography that's been kind of a focus of government attention for many years, but with this government particularly. They call it at the moment the Cambridge, Milton Keynes, Oxford Corridor, or ARC. I've argued that arcs and corridors aren't very exciting terms to use. And what I went down to London to talk about yesterday, which I have sort of mentioned on the platform a number of times recently, is that the business community across the whole geography should be engaged in this. How to get them engaged is for businesses to see the business opportunity in it. What the government's already talking about doing is investing in new road and rail and housing to kind of give the area the capacity it needs. What I'm saying is don't forget where this all started, which is all the major assets across the geography. And actually, if you knowing what I know about kind of science parks and UK Science Park Association time, what I've done at Cambridge UK, and then with the cluster report and the sort of other clusters around the world, like Silicon Valley and the like, I feel that, in my opinion, that we should be calling it the UK's high-tech supercluster. And actually, when you use a term like supercluster, people go, God, what's that? It sounds like something you could launch into space. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, it does.
And when I met with EV100 representatives a couple of weeks ago, and they are the 100 top electric vehicle companies in China. Very good conversation with them, absolutely the right people to have in the room to talk about that opportunity. Chief Exec was there and his sort of academic advisor, and he looked at me and he said, and we hadn't even really started talking, he said, Ros, I like your supercluster. How do we get one in China?
There we are.
And I thought, that's it.
There it is.
I knew I was right. Marketing it with the right phrase captures imagination. And when people would say to me, but hold on a minute, how can we dare call it a supercluster, justify it? I would say, OK, well, you've got Cambridge and Oxford University, which is what people keep talking about, and that's fine, and that really is massive value and credibility. But you've then also got Cranfield and University of Buckingham and the OU and Northampton University. You've also got Silverstone.
Clearly.
You've got Bletchley.
Yep.
You've got Harwell. And the Diamond Synchrotron. You've got the work going on at RAF Henlow to do with destructive testing. And then you've got the places like the Laboratory of Molecular Biology in Cambridge that's got more Nobel Prizes than France. And you've got the Genome Campus, yeah? So you've got all... So once you... And I have this image of a PowerPoint slide, really, at this minute in time, that's got the supercluster, and then London to the south of it in close proximity, which is the reason it can do what it does, because you need the finance community. Yes. And then the Midlands engine above it with all that good stuff and the manufacturing that's going on. And then it just says supercluster. And then the next bit is just that rolling list of Harwell, Bletchley, Cambridge University, Cranfield, University of Buckingham, LMB, da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, actually, where else in the world could you list, just reeling off the ones I know, 10 different locations, assets across that geography that add so much value to our economy? And actually, to be honest with you, because it's never been seen like that and knitted together like that, what's the potential there? And that's what I was talking to Robert Jenrick about yesterday. And I was saying, actually, there's people like me that run science parks across that whole geography, across the supercluster. There are at least 6 other high-tech networks like Oxford Bionetwork, Cambridge Clean Tech, Cambridge Wireless, One Nucleus that represents all the biotech companies in Cambridge. And I've emailed all of them over the summer and said, what about working together on something? And they're like, great, that would be fantastic. In fact, some of them said, oh, thanks for doing this. We really need to do it. So I'm hoping that the vision is that we can bring some business opportunities to Silverstone Park and Silverstone Technology Cluster by linking up with the good work that's going on around us in this whole supercluster. I would like to be in the room when I introduce Rob from Total Sim, who does all his CFD stuff, to someone like Greg Winter at the LMB, who's just won a Nobel Prize for his work in biochemistry, who I've met and have been at dinners with, who is the reason that AstraZeneca are in Cambridge, because he was the guy at the LMB that did the work that set up Cambridge Antibody Technology, that then got bought by MedImmune, and MedImmune got bought by AstraZeneca, and AstraZeneca have got a couple of thousand people in Cambridge now. And I think he's probably won a Nobel Prize for something else that he's done, right? I'd love to be in the room because he's a good guy and he's down to earth.
And listen to the conversation.
And I did that once. I remember in Cambridge, it was really exciting when I introduced Ruth McKernan at Pfizer, who was on the park at Granta Park, to Jane Osborne, who's head of MedImmune on the park. And they knew of each other, but they hadn't really ever had the chance to talk. And we had a senior team lunch where I introduced the two of them. And basically, one's really into sort of neuroscience, the other one's stem cell research. Well, I don't know anything about either of those things. So, I mean, I couldn't follow the conversation, but it was just fantastic to be the person to introduce these people, and that's the bit I get the buzz out of. So I can't wait to start introducing people, and I know my sort of colleagues that run these cluster organisations are up for it. And, almost, to be honest with you, whether public sector in local and central government say let's do this or not, we can start doing it. The more support we get, and actually I think it will pay dividends for central government to support it, because why wouldn't you?
Good.
It's already good. There's really no downside to encouraging people to talk about business opportunities, sector to sector, capability to capability. And the reason that I think that the Greg Winter conversation would be good is not just because, who knows, those two minds meeting would be interesting as a conversation, but because if you think about it, when mathematicians met with biochemists, it then started the conversation about, well, why do we want to talk to each other? Because we're in completely different sort of areas of and different sectors. But bioinformatics was born out of that meeting, which is the mapping of the human genome and the DNA and all of that stuff. So I think that there's massive potential in just getting people in the room. And actually what we call it is engineered serendipity.
Great.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
it's about engineering those moments, banging people together. They think, what am I doing this for? It's an interesting conversation. Thanks for the business card. They go off to carry on doing what they're doing. But in the back of their mind, that's still in there.
Yeah.
And then either they come up with something and think, I'm going to give that guy a call, actually, because I've thought of something I think I might ask him a question about. And so the thing starts. Or someone says to them, you know what, we need to do something with, I don't know, biochemistry in elite athletes, and Rob's working with these elite athletes on CFD stuff, computational fluid dynamics, aerodynamics, and so he says, I know someone at the LMB that might be able to help us with that, and so it starts.
The relationship is born.
So that's what I'm looking forward to over the next 20 years.
It's beyond exciting, and typically in these interviews,
very real as well.
I would normally ask the guests to, if they could, within one sentence, to explain why businesses should consider potentially joining Silverstone Park and Silverstone Technology Cluster. But I think, if I'm honest, over the last 34 minutes, you have completely covered.
Have I?
And provided the best elevator pitch ever to what life is like here, and the possibilities for businesses, not just tech businesses and engineering businesses, but any business that can be associated with, provide services to,
absolutely,
can advise, can support, and also potentially passionate about.
Well, we're passionate about working in our community. That's the bigger picture and the vision and the opportunity. But at the end of the day, I want companies, and I also want, school students and college students and university students in the area to think, I wonder if Silverstone Park's got something for me. How can I benefit from the association? Can I work there? Can I be involved? Can I, what could, and for companies in the local area, I wouldn't want anyone to feel like, oh, it's just for. It's just for motorsport, it's just for high tech, it's just for industrial, it's just for office users, it's for everyone. And, we've got to be open-minded about this, use the Silverstone brand, and ultimately I'd like people to think that it's just the place to be in the area to really max my business and to get all the opportunities and attract the staff. It's just the place I want to be. And
the piece regarding students, I think, is really, really important. So to support the next generation coming through. So what is Silverstone Park doing with to support sort of local tech colleges and businesses as well with that? Well,
so there's a skills shortage, allegedly. Everyone says there is. Companies say to me when I do the kind of, how are you and how things are going, always comes back round to, well, we're worried about attracting the next, set of people that we need for a new project. And that's at all levels. So it's the technician level, managerial level, and everything in between. And, you share that problem with government and you realise that it is a national issue and engineering's not alone. And I think Brexit puts the frighteners on people a bit as well. And they're like, am I going to be able to get the staff I need? And so the debate goes on. And probably we'll always live with that because there's always going to be changing needs in the workforce in terms of, staff that you need, projects that you're running, new technology that's coming in. Do you train people or can they get qualified before they come, and all that stuff? But that shouldn't put us and me off doing something positive about it. So it's a big issue, it's a national issue, it's probably ongoing, but we need to just do something and get on with it. So we set up a pilot project with Gaia Innovation, Julia Muir. She runs this not-for-profit charity. She's got really good credibility, working in schools, mainly in Yorkshire, because that's where she's from. I met her through Tim Maccabee, MD of Ducati. He'd been at an event, and was late for a lunch I was running. And he said, I've been doing this. Oh, that's really interesting. So Julia and I talked, and we said, let's get Julia in with her team to help us to work in a meaningful way with local schools and start there as a pilot project, see where it takes us. And the bit that she adds is that she knows the schools, she knows the agenda that they're running in terms of what they're required to do by government, especially with things like careers information and these sort of meaningful interactions for students. She knows that they need at least 7 interactions for meaningful interactions for a student with someone from the world of work can prevent them from becoming, not in education, employment or training at the end. So I think 50% of it is information. Definitely. I think young people don't have enough information, aren't given enough information about all the opportunities. And I think it's really tough to expect teachers to do that because they've got enough going on already. They do try, and there are good examples. I'm not saying every school, every pupil doesn't know what's going on, but I think the world of work's changing all the time. And so I think half the issue is raising awareness of the business opportunities in the area with young people and what it takes to get the jobs that are going to be available.
Yeah.
And then the other 50% is like inspiring them, making them clear that it's about attitude, actually. It's not about straight A students. I wasn't a straight A student. I go in and do speakers for school stuff, and that's what I talk about is, getting a C is okay if that's the best you can do, and getting to the next level and moving on and doing the next thing, and, having a job where you're confident and fulfilled and doing your best is what it's all about really in life, rather than in actual fact, if you're a kind of straight A student, sometimes those people are scared of failure and it puts them off. So we've all got, something to bring to students when we talk to them. And so this pilot project is about getting 20 or 30 volunteers from Silverstone Park companies comfortable with working with schools, bit of training and support for them. And then going into these 3 schools, it's Buckingham School, Kingsthorpe and the UTC, starting with secondary school students that are in the year where they're deciding on their GCSEs, and just seeing how it goes. How did we help the school and those pupils? How was it for the business community that's getting involved? And then grow it from there.
Yeah, I think it's very, very exciting. My firm, Longhurst, is one of those volunteer firms, and so I think I've put myself down to potentially speak to an entire hall full of students to talk about entrepreneurialism. It's
a little bit nerve-wracking before you go on, because they're not the same sort of audience as business people. But actually, if you can really speak to their feelings and their sense of, themselves and where they're at and where they want to go, you can capture their imaginations, and it doesn't really matter the size of the room. It is about being real with them, I think.
Yeah, I think, my focus is to reinforce the message that they can achieve whatever they want to achieve in life. And that, picking up on your point regarding the exam results, that actually it's what happens after you get those exam results which is going to define you. How do you react to potentially not getting the grades that you wanted, or
yes, exactly right,
or potentially getting the grades that you could possibly get, even if that was C's and D's and E's. It makes no difference. It's how you apply yourself after that moment.
It is,
and how you sort of roll with the punches. You're going to make mistakes throughout your life, whether it be in your personal life or career. That's going to happen. You need to learn about that and then embrace those mistakes, because that will be the making of you.
That's right.
If you look at the leading business owners around the globe, and all the leading entrepreneurs, the Bransons through to the Jobs, through to whomever, they've all made lots and lots of mistakes.
That's
and they've failed a lot. And it's from that.
Because you're working on the edge of your capabilities,
because they're pushing themselves. And it's fun and it's exciting and it's scary and it's nervous, but actually, the outcome can be beautiful. And so, do
you know what I also think? I think school's a lot harder than work.
God blimey.
And because it's all that peer pressure and also bullying. I think
social
as well.
Media is massive.
One of the things I always say to them is, pick your friends wisely.
Cool.
And are you a good friend to people?
Are you a good person?
And I think that sometimes speaks to them a bit, because there's a heck of a lot that they're dealing with that as an adult in a working environment you can kind of you don't have to be subjected to.
Sure.
So there's all of that too.
Yeah, I think also the providing positive role models and influence. From what I've understood, some of the students aren't kind of come from great backgrounds and upbringings.
Of course not.
And so going in there and being
so many students are in that situation,
being very real, saying actually, do you know what? As a child or as an adult, we've been through events and situations like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're not too dissimilar. Yeah, but it's just about how you apply yourself after that.
It's almost saying to the ones that probably feel disadvantaged, actually, all that stuff you've been through, all those experiences, you're an advantage because you're tougher and you've coped with stuff. And I've sort of said that. And I remember there was one school that I talked to where a girl came up to me afterwards and she said, I lost my mum to cancer 2 years ago and she was my best friend and I miss her every day. but I know what you mean about that experience, because none of my friends have been through that, but I have, and I kind of get that that's taken me somewhere different.
Absolutely.
And I was like, just keep going.
What a wise young lady.
Yeah, I'm like, you're absolutely just, what you've just said shows me she's already identified, you're going to make it.
You know, it's
lovely.
Yeah, so very much looking forward to that.
Students are great.
I think, it's going to be one of my first experiences with it. So, so very much looking forward to it. And I think the first one starts in a month or so. So, very much. Right. Okay. So, so first of all, thank you. That's an immense amount of fantastic and exciting information about Silverstone, Silverstone Park, the STC, and all of our futures. So I certainly feel in safe hands with you at the helm as commercial director. So thank you. The next part of the interview, I'd really like to, even if it's just very briefly, just touch on Ros and the story behind you and sort of your life, just so that we can just sort of share just any sort of any pieces of nuggets regarding your sort of personal journey.
Yeah.
And so you and your family live in East Anglia, Suffolk. Yeah. And you've been there for quite a while.
Yeah.
What's the story between sort of Suffolk to Silverstone? I'm obviously connecting that together with the MEPC and your journey there as a career, but Suffolk to Silverstone.
Mm-hmm. Well, so obviously joined MEPC, who still work for at Granta Park, and that's in Cambridge. And I was living in Bury St Edmunds at the time, so it's only 30 minutes up the road. Yeah. Then when we sold Granta Park, I stayed with MEPC, travelled around the business to different parks, and on the basis that once we bought some land somewhere or another part, that my name would be on it. Okay. And so we bought the land around the track at Silverstone, and then I was offered the job as commercial director. Uh-huh. At the same time, I was going through a training programme with my partner to adopt. Okay. And then we got the go-ahead to do that, and then we adopted a baby girl. And you sort of realise at that point that it's really good to have your grandparents close by. Yeah. And so it was a case of, I don't think we should move. Sure. And my partner's at home with our daughter, and she was a teacher, so she left teaching to do that. And actually for her, it's really important to be where we'd been based for at least 10 years with friends and family around.
You've got roots there.
And so I just said, okay, well, I'll do the journey. And it really does work, because I go out on a Monday, stay overnight in a hotel near Silverstone, go back on a Tuesday, work from home on a Wednesday, and then I do the same thing again, go out on a Thursday, stay overnight. Yeah. So it means 2 nights a week I'm sort of working on catching up with emails and writing reports and doing stuff I need to do, because I do quite a lot of meetings in the day. Sure. Yeah. And then on a Wednesday I'm at home, and I see my daughter, and we have breakfast and tea together. I pretty much manage to have breakfast with her on the days when I'm heading over here. Lovely. It takes me a couple of hours. So we worked out as well, if I was to sort of get a job more locally, I probably would see less of them, because I'd be out 5 days a week, and I'd have to get up and go, and whereas here there's a bit of an understanding that when I'm in the car, I've got the hands free and I'm on the phone, so I don't have to wait till 5 o'clock to leave the office on a Friday. And
maximising your time, being smart.
Yeah, so it works really well, and I never work at the weekends. Ever. And
what do you guys do to kick back on the weekend? So what does your daughter like doing?
Playing on the beach up in Norfolk. Lovely. Loves that. In fact, you can see her just relax, and she just doesn't, she's not even that interested in the sea at the moment. She pokes her fingers in the sea anemones. Sure. She's just four and a half now, and runs around on the beach and makes sandcastles. And where we live in Suffolk, we've got a decent sized garden, so trying to keep that under control is my job for the weekends. There's a lot of grass cutting and
so you've got green
weeding the vegetables. No, I have to have them. I literally get green fingers with all the grass.
You've learned to have them.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, but I found it to be really therapeutic. I'm not. I wouldn't class myself as a gardener, but I've got more interested in it over the seasons. And the house we're in now, sort of moved out of Bury to a village with a bigger garden, so I've had to get a petrol mower. Yeah. And it had a vegetable patch, which is. I did grow some garlic, actually. Okay. Plant in November and got them out in June, and we're eating those, and they've worked, but it's full of weeds now. Right. So I need to get back there. But I do find if I go and spend a couple of hours in the garden on a Sunday, it's good physical work. It's nice to be out in the fresh air, and you're doing something So yeah, that and the washing and the ironing and everything else is what everyone has to do.
Standard chores.
But you've got to get the admin done sometimes. So
yeah, personal admin's
weekend.
important. You know, doing working on the garden. Louise and I recently, my partner and I have moved to a village just near Silverstone and in a small woodland. And
oh, wow.
and the feedback from the assistant site manager is, Chris, you now live in the countryside because I've been complaining that we've got moles. And,
you're going to get a cat.
So we're dealing with moles. Well, we're investigating a dog at the moment.
Yeah.
So we're potentially thinking about getting a rescue dog. But I was out in the garden for a couple of hours on Sunday as well. Equally, exactly the same. Don't have green fingers. Learning to have them.
Yeah.
Mowing.
It's good exercise.
Leaf blower, leaf vacuum.
Oh yeah.
All of that.
You need
malarkey.
the toys. You need the tools.
Yeah. B&Q has been a
yeah. Do you know last year I raked all the leaves up from this one tree that in the garden, and it was a whole afternoon, and my ribs were killing me by the end of it. I was doubled with it was good exercise, but I must admit I did see advertised on the internet a leaf vacuum, and I thought
it's the best investment. I think I spent £100 on ours, and without any doubt it's been the best investment ever.
I was thinking, I might not give myself that chore again every year.
It gets quite heavy, but in the future you can for pocket money you can say to your daughter, look, you need to go and rake
oh
the
bless
leaves,
her, I would make her do that.
Brilliant. Okay, so we're going to start wrapping up the interview, if that's okay, because I'm conscious of your time. You're a very, very busy lady, so thank you for coming on again.
No problem at all.
2 or 3 questions to finish off.
Yeah.
I didn't actually prep you on this. I'm not sure if you've actually read the pre-interview brief that I sent you. So
I'm prepared.
Are you prepared?
I am. I know what you're going to ask me.
Drum roll.
Most embarrassing moment.
It is.
So
whether it be
I've got some great
because
ones.
we're talking about
as I said, which one to tell you.
Because I'm thinking about for the students. Talking to them about mistakes. I think that's going to be my presentation. To talk about embracing mistakes, because I think it's so important. So you're already prepared. So professionally or personally, have you got anything embarrassing?
Well, I have got one.
Tell me.
But I don't know if it's going to help any students, to be fair. And that is that when I was at UK Science Park Association, I had quite a bad back.
Right.
And I used to manage it by doing quite a lot of exercise and stuff. So it's fine. But it used to be quite temperamental. Small on my back, just go all sort of stiff, and I used to have to take some painkillers for it, and that sort of thing was going on for a little while.
Right.
Anyway, so also we used to do a lot of presentations to delegations. And on this particular occasion, we had about 20 people from China in. So we're in this meeting room, and I'm at this lectern, and I'm talking to them for about an hour about UK Science Park Association and science parks and the opportunity and whatever. And I could feel my back. And I think it's because I was a bit tense as well, and I was in some heels. I was like, oh, my back's really killing me. Anyway, I get to the end of it, and they all then pile out, and I'm sort of going up and shaking their hands, feeling a bit stiff, but thinking, you're all going to go out of the room in a minute. And the very best thing for me to do is to get down on the floor on all fours and kind of stretch my back out.
Okay.
So they all went out of the room and down the stairs, and I then got on the floor and was stretching my back out, and suddenly this Chinese man popped his head back round. He went, I've just forgotten my bag, and I must admit, I didn't know what to say. So I'm just looking for something.
Oh my God.
But I was literally on all fours in the meeting room. And I thought, okay, note to self. Either wear flatter shoes, take more painkillers, and definitely don't crouch down on the floor until you know they've actually left the building.
That's such a good story.
It was quite a bad moment. The other one that was quite embarrassing, it's more recent, was at social committee. We had a sports evening.
Right.
And it was the first one that we'd done. It's a couple of years ago now. And I'd forgotten what some of these tasks were, right? So I'm just there, bouncing up and down, going, great, what we do next, Ruth's organising. She said, we're going to do wheelbarrow. And I thought, I can't remember what wheelbarrow is. I'll do it. And then she was bringing the sort of length of the running area in, because we'd just done relay or something. So what are you doing that for? So we're doing wheelbarrow. And I thought, OK, fine, be shorter, be easier, no problem. And then Ben, our development manager, said to me, so do you want to be the holder? And I was like,
the barrow.
Oh, I remember what it is now. And then I remembered that when I was 9 or 10, I was quite good at that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, Ben, I'll go down on the floor. So I said, you can hold me, because he said, I've got a little bit of an injury. You know where people like go, oh, but I have this injury.
What
so
a gentleman.
You can be one or the other, if you don't mind. So, and it was like, fine. I thought, I'm up for this. Anyway, oh my goodness me, that was a lot harder than I remember it being. It's a bit like trying to do monkey bars again at our age.
Yeah.
It doesn't work the same way. You sort of hang and drop, don't you?
How did you get on? Did you win?
So the embarrassing moment was I get down the end and everyone's like quite surprised I've managed it. Start coming back the other way and I'm thinking I'm just going to collapse any second. And I literally, my arms collapsed probably about 30 centimetres from the finish line. And Ben literally pushed my face over the line.
Oh my God.
And apparently, everyone saw it obviously because I was like making such a fuss.
Yes.
And apparently Kirsty has a photo of me with my face being pushed along the last sort of 30 centimetres of this grass track.
Oh my God.
Across the finishing line. And I haven't seen it yet. And I think it must be so bad that they don't even show it to me.
Well, it's one of those, isn't it? Because it's like, we must get
the message is put yourself out.
We must get that. But look, at the end of the day, but did you win the race?
I don't know. I think I was too damaged.
Who cares? That's such a good story. Thank you. Both of those stories, fantastic. Thank you for sharing those. Before I get into the last question, is there anything that I haven't asked you that I should have covered off? Anything that any final sound bites that you want to share?
I really don't think so. I think we've covered loads. It's been a really great opportunity to talk about everything we're doing, and you can probably tell there's a lot going on. And yeah, I think from our point of view, it's just really exciting to work in an area where there's so much great business activity already. And, we're not making it happen. We're just there to kind of create the right environment for everyone and see how far we can take it. And honestly, the bit that buzzes us is the ambition of the companies and the sort of areas they're getting into. And we're just trying to support that. So
good, agreed. I think it's fantastic job you guys are doing. Thank you. Last question. Advice for Chris Broome. So as the host, I can be really selfish and ask this, whether it be sort of life advice, something profound, professional advice, want to do that, but anything that you could say on the journey that you've been on through your life that you can pass on to me that you think may help me on mine.
Get enough sleep. Yeah, if you can't sleep, get that sorted out. I think that helps you on a day-to-day basis and year to year, and it's really bad for your long-term health if you are awake at night and don't sleep. So I really think that that's what's helped me more than anything else. The reason I can work so intensively right up to the last minute of the day is because within about 10 minutes of listening to a bit of news, I'm asleep. And I can sleep. If someone left me, I could sleep for about 9 hours. I rarely am disturbed, even if I've got something quite stressful happening the next day and I'm sort of preparing up to the last minute for that, I can just go to sleep. I just go to sleep. And I think that's really, really, really important for health and for kind of being able to do a good job.
Yeah, and recharging.
And also, reset. With a 4-year-old who was 3 and 2 and 1, she wakes up at night and we wake up at night. And actually what's been helpful for me is being able to do that and then get back into bed and go back to sleep again.
That's a good skill set to be able to do that, because a lot of people can't do that. I think it does help.
I think that's why I can do what I do, to be honest. And people sometimes throughout my career have looked on at me and said, oh, you're working so hard and you're taking on so much and you do so many hours and it's so intense, you're going to, have a breakdown or you're going to burst or you're going to pop or something bad's going to happen to you. Well, I'm 45 and I've been working since I'm 21 like this. And it's been okay. If I wasn't able to sleep, I would probably have to slow down, and maybe that'll happen to me because you can't be in charge of everything. But that has helped me. On the business front, I would say that you're doing the right thing by talking to people about what they're interested in and getting to know people that way. Because it's about people. It's a people business, isn't it? And the advice and the support that you can give people on your financial planning is really personal, and they need to feel they can trust you. And I think you come across as really genuine in what you're doing.
Thank you.
And I think that's going to go down really well because, like I said earlier before we started talking, the one thing that strikes me about all the companies here is they're real people who are proud about what they do and, are genuinely trying to do some good as well as make money. And so, I think your approach will go down really well. And, you were saying earlier about going to lots of networking events and things. I think that's really good. I did loads of that when I was in Cambridge, and at the time, same as here, I'm really a property person, aren't I? But I go where my customer is and I listen.
Yes.
Because I want to find out what's on their mind, what worries them, how I can help, how can I add value. And I think, the more you can go to those events, and some of them are way off topic, like the stem cell research and, all those kind of biochemistry things I used to go to sounded like Space Invaders to me. But what I was picking up was who's there, the people that are coming, what they're into, what they're worried about, where their business is going, what their vision is, what worries them. It's all those insights that then really helps us, I think, from the sort of professional service and support role,
totally,
to then find where we can add some value genuinely to what they're doing.
I have nothing else to add to either of those. I think both of those
Happy with that?
They're wonderful.
Are you sleeping all right?
I sleep okay. Sleep all right.
Just keep an eye on that.
So make sure I rest and take time off weekends. Within our business we have a culture of practice what we preach. So our office shuts at 2:00 every Friday, so we can go off. So I'll go fishing, shooting, play golf, or do something, and then make sure I spend the weekend doing the chores that Louise gives me.
Yeah.
And except I'm teasing, but all the bits and bobs. But but both bits of advice you've just provided are wonderful. Got nothing else to add. So that's it. That is literally the end of our interview. That is 58 minutes.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk, and it's been really nice to have that chance to talk to you properly. I look forward to working with you, really.
Great. Well, we'd love to have you back on the show, perhaps in the next year or so.
Yeah, I'll give you an update
to find out what's going on with SP and STC, and hopefully new businesses and new entities that have joined the park over the next 12 months. We'll take it from there.
Great. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Cheerio.
Bye.
The Inside Silverstone podcast is produced by the team at Longhurst for the benefit of those with a passion for all things tech, engineering and innovation. For more information, please visit longhurst.co.uk/Inside Silverstone, whilst also remembering to give us a 5 out of 5 star rating on iTunes. Please note that neither Chris Broome or Longhurst work for Silverstone Park, Silverstone Circuit or Silverstone Technology Cluster.